How do? How do?
I have another question. This is from Phillip. And Phillip has some questions about feints. His question is, can you talk about the different types of feints, when to use them, and how they affect your opponent's psychology and nervous system? He also asks, could you also say something about the difference between feints and preparation?
Okay, okay, very good. Very good. Yeah, I can handle that, I think. So, we're going to talk about the psychology of feints, a very fascinating subject. Feints, false attacks, that sort of thing, exist in the heart and core of fencing. I don't see how you can fence without that sort of capability. The first thing you have to understand, that feints work best against people who are nervous and uptight and jumpy. And they work the least best against people who are relaxed and able to ignore the feint. And you might say, well, how can you ignore a feint? It's a threat. You say, well, a seasoned fencer can tell the difference between a feint and a real threat. The feint is a false threat at its best. Feints at the target, like threatening the target with your weapon, are an excellent way to control the way your opponent parries if you use the feints right and at the right time. And with the feint, accompanying the feint is the beats on the blade. If you beat the blade to draw a nervous response from your opponent, that's creating the same kind of reaction that you get as if you threaten them with the point. But again, as we observe, an advanced fencer, if you beat his blade, no matter how hard, will just ignore it. They know that that's not a threat. You can beat the blade till the cows come home. That doesn't threaten the target area. Unless, of course, the defender thinks it does. This is where we get into it, see. And it's like if you point your weapon at somebody, a seasoned fencer knows that that's not a threat. But a nervous, jumpy fencer might think that that's a threat. And that's the guy you use the feint against. In my game, my first tactic, really, is to try to create nervousness in my opponent's defense. And you might ask, well, how in blazes do you do that? How can you make your opponent nervous? Well, my policy is to give them a smashingly fast, direct attack straight at their target, meant to land, in the very opening moment of the bout. And if I make it, fine. If I don't make it, fine. The idea is not necessarily to score on that attack, but it's to serve notice on my opponent that I'm crazy enough to try, you see. Now, if you do score in that initial attempt, that's all the better, because then they've got a sensitivity where that point hit, and they will be more prone to defend that spot. I think of every touch I put on somebody as kind of like I've burned them. And they'll remember that burn, and I'll come back, and then I'll feint at that sensitive spot and draw a response, you see. The same is true with beats on the blade. If I beat the blade and draw no response from the person, I know that a beat disengage or a beat attack of a preparation of any kind has a very little chance of making it. So what I'll do is do a smashing beat direct attack at their target area to let them know again that I'll try that. I want them to know that I'm willing to go straight in on their target, either with direct attacks or with beat direct attacks. And the way I teach them that is what I've said. I try them in the early stages of the bout. If you do a very fast, hard direct action or a beat direct action, if you score, your opponent is going to be very, very nervous about the target area after that, because they know that you're liable to try that again, you see. If you don't score, say that you draw a response from them so they parry that very hard attack, that's great too, because either way, they know you're liable to do that. So here is the lesson that you must keep in mind. It's easier to hit somebody in a line that they don't feel threatened in. And it's harder to hit them in a line that they do feel threatened in. So let's think about this. If I attack you and really hit you in, say, the cart line, say, bang, just like that, the very touch creates a threat in their mind. They think, wow, I just got hit there, that's liable to happen again. Then you follow up with a feint and they're liable to respond to it, you see. The same with a beat attack. You beat the blade and go in. If you hit them, they're going to be very jumpy that you're going to do that again, you see. And that's the time to do a beat disengage to avoid the parry. So if you want your feints and beats to draw the response you need for a successful attack, you create that sensitivity. Your opponent has a memory of touches in a bout that they receive. When you get hit in a bout, you really regret that happening. That's the one thing a fencer doesn't want to have happen, is to be hit, you see. And if you hit them in a particular place, they'll be a little more inclined to react defensively to defend that area, you see. A little more jumpiness in the hand, you see. A little bit more nervousness. They think, wow, I've been hit there. I don't want that to happen again. To feint at a target on a seasoned fencer is almost a hopeless thing to do. The seasoned fencer will look at your feint and just ignore it. And, or if you beat the blade as a means of intimidation to create nervousness, the seasoned fencer will just ignore it. You can beat the blade till the cows come home. And that should be a lesson to you. Don't respond to that stuff. Don't let people make you nervous or jumpy through blade action of any kind. Always, as the greatest fencer that ever lived, El Donati, his first advice is to ignore all intimidation. Never allow a fencer to defeat you through intimidation, you see. Because intimidation causes nervousness, and nervousness causes and involuntary reactions. I think that's about all you really have to know about this. I'd like to add one thing. Another way to make your opponent nervous is by closing distance fast. If you close distance, hey, like that, even though you're not intending to attack, it's just a preparation to cause them nervousness, it works very well. So between closing distance at the right time, looking intimidating and threatening, is what you back up these attempts to score in the target with, between burning their target with beated directs or direct attacks and closing distance. That means you're squeezing the distance. Those elements, you've got an opponent who has a very high likelihood to respond to your feints and your beats. Remember, feints and beats and fencing and closing distance, that is the material for preparation for an attack. If you think of it, there's only one real attack in fencing, and that's the direct attack. Everything you do in fencing is designed to open your opponent up so you can hit them with a direct action. So what we say, everything you do in the bout, short of reaching for their target, is preparation. And the preparation is designed to set them up so they will respond to feints, so they will respond to beats, so they will have involuntary nervous reactions. If you can develop that in your opponent, you've got them. Then your feints and your beat disengages, etc., will work very fine against even the best fencers. And that's about what you have to keep in mind as you develop as a fencer. And that's about what I have to say on it.